Everybody wants to take a seat and... All right. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Midwifery Advisory Council meeting. I'm Carrie Sparrowhon and I chair this committee. Please turn your cell phones either off or to vibrate. And any of the council members that have them on the table, please muffle them somehow if you've got them on vibrate. This meeting is being webcasted. If you would like to provide public comment, please fill out a speaker slip in the back of the room and give it to Ms. Sewell. There she is. Great. I would now like to call this meeting to order. Ms. Lowe, would you call the roll, please?
Dr. Burns, Ms. Ehrlich, here. Ms. Marcelin, here. Ms. Webster, here. Ms. Yaroslavsky, present. Ms. Sparvon,
here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. So, agenda item 2 is public comment on items that are not on today's agenda. And you might note that the council may not discuss or take action on any matter raised during this public comment section that is not included on this agenda, except to decide whether to place the matter on the agenda of a future meeting. Is there any public comment on items not on the agenda? All right, seeing none, let's move forward to agenda item 3. Approval of the August 14th Midwifery Advisory Council meeting minutes. Are there, okay. All right, do I have a second?
Second.
Are there any comments? Ms. Lowe, did anybody submit comments to you? Thank you.
Prior to today's meeting, MAC members did submit some minor edits, and I'll just go through them quickly that we will be changing in the minutes. On page 2 of the minutes, the second line from the bottom beginning with Ms. Sparvon continued, the word was will be changed to were. On page 4 of the minutes, about 2/3 of the way down the page, the sentence beginning with Ms. Ehrlich questioned, the words was going to will be changed to would. So the sentence would now read, Ms. Ehrlich questioned if there would be any additional types of information included in the packet. Okay. On page 5 of the minutes, the second paragraph, the spelling of Ms. Ehrlich's name will be corrected. Those were all of the submitted changes.
Are there any changes, requests for changes from any council members? Any comments from the public? Seeing none, can I have a vote to approve the minutes? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, the minutes have been approved. Thank you. So the next agenda item is my report. You're all lucky today because it's really brief and hopefully won't raise too much controversy. Many positive steps have been taken this year towards implementing the changes required by AB 1308. All groups that are interested parties to the current regulatory process, midwives, consumers, physicians, and the medical board itself, have the same goal, creating as safe an environment for birthing families as is possible, while allowing them the freedom of autonomy to weigh their options and make choices appropriate to their own circumstances. As we continue moving forward with these changes, it is therefore of utmost importance that we balance safety for birthing women and families with the imposition of requirements that compromise their autonomy without changing their course of care for the better. We need to constantly ask the question, how will this requirement increase consumer safety or improve the course of care? Requirements imposed on consumers that don't meet this test have no place in the regulations now being crafted. Additionally, any departure from or change to previous regulations that were imposed to improve safety for consumers should only be undertaken with good evidence that change would increase safety for birthing women and their families. I look forward to the continuing work of this council as we move into 2015, and I am certain the current regulatory process will produce a product that will protect both the safety and autonomy of California birthing families. Are there any questions from council members? Any comments from the public? Seeing none, we're going to move to the next agenda item. So the next agenda item is supposed to be presented by Dr. Byrne. It's an update on the new board packet task force, and I'm the other member of that task force, so I'm going to present on that. At the last Midwifery Advisory Council meeting, we presented a, 3 or 4 page form that compared licensed midwives with certified nurse midwives in California. And it was decided that it would be more helpful to have a 1-page form. So that form is available. I think it was provided all the council members on the desk here. It looks like this and should be in the back of the room as well for audience members. I'd like to entertain a motion to adopt this form so we can discuss it.
Second.
Great. Are there any council comments on this form?
Well, I want to take this opportunity to
Your mic?
to thank
Here. That's on.
to thank Dr. Byrne and his committee for this. It makes it a whole lot easier for the layperson to take a look at it and understand, and therefore I'm sure it'll make it easier for the professionals as well. But I want to thank you for making sure this happened, and to thank those members of the staff as well as Dr. Byrne's committee for putting this together.
Great. Are there any comments from the audience? Any other comments from the council? All right. Can we take a vote on this? All in favor of submitting this form to the full board for approval?
Aye.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Great. Motion carries. So now we have an update on midwife assistant language proposal from Ms. Simoes.
Thank you. So I did have the language and the proposal, and I've what we kind of do here at the medical board is we give the BMP committees, we show them the language for the proposals we're going to do for the following year and kind of find out from them if they're interested in taking it. So I've done that, and it's with Assembly BMP right now. There's recently been some changes. There's some committee appointments made yesterday, and BMP is splitting up. So it's going to be in Assembly, it's going to be Business and Professions, and there's a new committee, Privacy and Consumer Protection. So we're kind of finding out where we fall in those two committees, and so once that's a little, we kind of understand what committee our stuff is going to go to, and then we'll be working with the appropriate committee, showing that language, and then if they're not interested, then I'll be pursuing authors. So if anyone has an author, a legislator that they think would be interested in this, I encourage you to let me know.
I have a question. I had expected, I don't think my mic is on. I had expected that we would see that language here today.
There's a button on the side, Karen.
Yes, indeed. I had expected that we would see that language here today. I'm surprised that it wasn't in our packet.
We got the language at the August meeting. I don't think it's
It
changed.
hasn't changed at
It
all?
hasn't changed.
No.
It's that same language that I got from Carrie and Miss Webb and Miss
Okay.
Barravon, and I just basically gave a little synopsis of why it's needed, and it was taken from our Sunset Review report, and then I attached that to the language, and that's kind of when you approach an author, usually the background on why it's needed and the language, and then that's kind of how you shop for an author. So that's what I'll use. If BMP is not interested, then I'll take that to authors and see if I can find someone that's interested.
Okay. One of the reasons that I am interested in that, and for whatever reason, my brain is not remembering that we saw this language last time, or I would have brushed up on it. I don't know whether this would simply fall into the purview of the language that has already been proposed. But there are a certain number of women in the state of California who are certified professional midwives who have not gone for licensure by the medical board. But these are women who have gone through training, experience, and have passed the exam that is the licensing exam for midwives in California.
Let me help
But
you.
they don't have licenses, and I would just like to see that those CPMs who are choosing not to get licensed would be an automatic okay that they could be hired as midwifery assistants in
Yeah.
California.
The way the language is written, Karen, is that there's two methods for becoming a midwife assistant. One is a school that would actually run a program similar to what medical assistants do, and the other one is that midwives could train and certify their own assistants. So that would be that route that they would need to
I
take.
appreciate
probably.
that. I just don't think there should have to be any hoops
Well,
for
it's-
those women.
It
That's
isn't.
all.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be happy to send the language out to the members if anyone wants a refresher on the language.
I'm sure I have it because I have the packet from last time, but I wouldn't mind receiving it. Thank you.
Which committees did you say might be hearing?
After
BMP, which were the
BMP, yeah, I'm not sure with the Assembly with the split which one, but BMP, so Senate and Assembly.
Thank you. Is there any comment from the audience on this agenda item? Seeing none, I'm going to keep marching forward here. Agenda item 7 is an update on certified nurse midwife to licensed midwife entry. Ms. Kirkmeyer, Ms. Simoes, please. Thank you.
Good afternoon. We just wanted to let you know we went back as staff and we really looked at this issue of moving over the certified nurse midwives into a licensure category under licensed midwives. And in looking at it, what we thought was a regulatory change, we actually think it may be a legislative change that is needed. However, Ms. Simoes and I, in our travels at the Capitol, have found out that we believe the certified nurse midwives may be going forward next year with a bill that would release them from the physician supervision, similar to what the licensed midwives have done in the past year, probably with some requirements similar to what happened with the licensed midwives. And so at this time, we don't think it's prudent for the medical board to move forward with this legislative proposal because we believe that there may be the opportunity for those CNMs to fit into the same category. We know there were a lot of issues that came up because of, would they be practicing as a CNM or an LM and all of the issues with that. And so we actually believe that this would be something that should wait, and it may also be something that even if it doesn't go through for the CNMs, it may be something that shouldn't be carried by the board but may need to be carried by the certified nurse midwives themselves. So that's kind of where we are on that.
So, do you have something to add?
No, just that there seems to be a lot of legislative interest in this by more than one legislative office, so it's highly probable that someone will at least take on this issue. It may not be in exactly the form that Kim and I were talked to about, but it sounds like it is going to be addressed this year. So
Yeah, I would be very surprised if the CNMs couldn't get supervision removed at this point, but I'm curious to understand why. Maybe it would just be too problematic to approve all of their schools. Because that we could do regulatory, because we just need to approve the schools by the board. But that could be a real headache, and I really do sort of agree with your decision that if they're going forward and they are going to possibly remove supervision from their law, then it seems pointless for us to all spin our wheels here on getting them their LN. Are there any other comments from council members?
My biggest comment is in support of those certified nurse midwives who are eager for this to happen for them, because they are functioning essentially outside of their scope of practice and their law, and they were really hopeful that they were going to be able to find a way to function within terms of law. I think they are going to be extremely disappointed that this is not moving forward quickly.
Even if we had decided to move forward with it, and let's say it was a regulatory change, even rather than if we're correct in our review of the laws and regulations that had to be a legislative change, it would be happening at the same time as them taking it themselves. Even if it was a regulatory change, it would have to go to the board. It would have to be set for a hearing, and the time frames are almost exactly about the same. Yeah.
So I have a question. By this going forward under different auspices, does that mean that maybe we should hold up on what we're doing and go through with that process?
We should not move forward to try to get the certified nurse midwives training
removed. But I'm saying the legislation
the same as licensed midwives.
But the licensed midwives, that legislation will go forward. I'm asking, should it stop and go through with that?
No,
Okay,
and really the licensed midwife legislation is all moved forward. What we're looking at now are just the regulations pursuant to AB 1308 changes. So,
okay, thank you.
Great. Are there any comments from the public? All right. Any others from the council members? All right. Seeing none, we're going to move forward. Ms. Lowe is going to give us an update on the licensed midwives interested parties meeting that happened in October.
Thank you. On October 15th, the board held an interested parties meeting here at the board to discuss the needed regulations for the transfer of planned out-of-hospital delivery to hospital reporting form, as well as the regulations to define pre-existing maternal disease or condition likely to affect the pregnancy, and significant disease arising from the pregnancy. There was an impressive turnout for the meeting and quite a bit of discussion regarding the defining of pre-existing maternal disease or condition. However, due to the lengthy discussions that ensued on specific items, we were unable to address the reporting form at that time. As it was clear during that meeting that additional interested parties meetings would need to be held, we have scheduled another meeting that will be on December 15th here at the board's headquarters, and that meeting agenda has been posted and notice has been sent out to those on the subscribers list. During that meeting, we will be covering the same items as at the previous one, and we're hopeful that individuals will be able to come to consensus regarding the language so that we can move forward with the regulatory process. At this time, that's all I have for the update on the meeting.
The next interested parties meeting regarding this is on the 15th of this month, correct?
Correct, December 15th.
And are we going to address both issues again?
We're
or try
hopeful
to?
to. So we would like the individuals involved with meeting and coming up with what they're wanting to hopefully come prepared at that meeting so that we can move through this and get somewhere this time.
All right. Are there any, is there any input from council members regarding this? All right. I have Jean Anderson, licensed midwife, Southern California Midwives. Southern California Midwives.
I practice primarily in Ventura County.
Your microphone.
I don't think they're on.
There's a little button down at the bottom. Yeah, there you go.
Is the light supposed to come on?
Mhm.
It's not.
Oh. A movie coming.
Is it on now?
No.
Oh, no, I probably.
He's trying to put it on over here.
Otherwise, you can
Over there.
probably be easier.
Okay. So I'm a licensed midwife. I practice primarily in Ventura County. I'm here, like you said, to represent midwives in Southern California, and I'd like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. A little nervous. So traditionally, parents have had the right to make choices they feel are in the best interests of their family, their children, and this right is recognized in our society as an integral part of parenthood. I think about things like where they're going to live, what type of schooling they're going to receive, the foods that they're going to eat. Even though one segment of society may think that what their choices are detrimental, that doesn't remove their right to do those kind of things. And the very first choice that parents make for their child is where and how the child will be born and who will be the care provider. And I think everybody here agrees with that. The California Code of Regulations, Title 22, Section 72527 and 72528, guarantees patients the right to receive all information that is material to an individual patient's decision concerning whether to accept or to refuse any proposed treatment or procedure. The patient has the right to accept or refuse the proposed treatment. By restricting a woman's access to alternative childbearing care, such as midwifery versus obstetric, we're denying them their basic rights as consumers and parents. The ACOG Committee Opinion Number 166 from December of 1995 concurs with this. Once the patient has been informed about the material risks and benefits of a treatment, the patient has the right to exercise full autonomy and decide whether to undergo a treatment or to make a choice among a variety of acceptable treatments. In the exercise of that autonomy, the informed patient also has the right to refuse to undergo any treatment. That constitutes informed refusal. Without the patient's permission, procedures that are forced then upon the patient constitute battery under common law. AB 1308 removes the childbearing woman's right to informed consent and denial. Section 2507 sets limits regarding the midwifery-attended birth of twins, breeches, and births occurring outside of the estimated gestational window of 37.0 and 42.0. Even when the childbearing woman has been clearly informed of the risks and benefits, she is forbidden to retain midwifery care according to Section 2507(3)(b). This forces her to choose care which may be contrary to her wishes and therefore can be interpreted to constitute battery. Others may choose to birth unassisted, which has not been shown to be in the best interest of the childbearing woman or her unborn child. Laws are to be protective of the public interest and not coerce those under them into poor decisions. AB 1308 is an illegal repeal of our standard of care, which was pushed through the legislature without the full knowledge and consent of many midwives. The proposed added regulations to AB 1308, which are now being considered as defining the Section 25071A and 1 and 2, only compound this problem, requiring a consult with an OB/GYN in many instances who will then refer to another specialist for evaluation instead of allowing the midwife to decide if, when, and who should be seen for the variations that occur during her antepartum care, places an unwarranted financial burden and additional stress on the childbearing woman with unnecessary appointments and fees for those services. This makes midwifery care burdensome for those who choose it and was never the intention of the Licensed Midwives Practice Act. AB 350 and SB 1479 allowed for unfettered public access of self-selected women to midwifery care. Yet AB 1308 denies them their preferred choice of care if they decline a licensed midwife's mandated advice to go see an OB. Midwives are schooled in differential diagnosis during our California state-approved training programs, which we must complete before we can be licensed. AB 1308 does not allow us to make differential diagnosis, but in fact turns that over to the OB/GYN physicians. Many OBs have never even seen a truly natural childbirth. They are trained in abnormality and surgery. Midwives are trained in normal, healthy birth and can best determine when a pregnancy remains normal and when consultations are needed, to whom the woman should be referred. We spend many hours counseling, comforting, and listening to our clients, providing continuity of care, emphasizing normalcy and healthy lifestyles to maintain that normalcy. Most of us enjoy, or would be happy to enjoy if made available, collaborative relationships not only with OBs, with other specialities as well, where we can seek counsel when we feel that we are out of our scope. No midwife I know wants to have a poor outcome, so we are careful to provide the very best of care. Our statistics show that we do. Many Southern California midwives do not feel that we have been adequately represented by CAM and do not want the Midwifery Council or the medical board to assume that the majority of midwives practicing in California always agree with the proposals that have been presented by CAM. When AB 1308 came to our attention late last year, a petition was signed by over 200 midwives asking that the bill not go through until there was more opportunity for input given to those of us who were directly affected. This was ignored. Many of us in Southern California had physician supervision prior to the adoption of AB 1308. And while we are happy to have that supervision removed and feel that it is in the best interest not only of midwifery but the community of childbearing women, many of us have retained our relationships, although now on a consultation basis, with our former supervising physicians, as well as having access for consultation with physicians in other specialities such as cardiologists, perinatologists, endocrinologists, as well as nutritionists, ultrasound centers, labs, and etc. I hope that the medical board will promote access to support like this in all areas of California rather than placing additional burdens on childbearing women and the midwives who serve them. AB 08 is costly and burdensome to patients. AB 1308 does not allow for patient-informed consent in regards to declinations of procedures. Most of the proposed additional regulations of AB 1308 compound the problem of unfettered public access to midwifery care and should be removed. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean. I know that you are speaking for a large number of midwives and families in California. Where I think that there is a misunderstanding both with the public and with some midwives is that AB 1308 was passed and the medical board has no authority whatsoever to change anything within it. If consumer groups want to organize with midwives to change parts of AB 1308 that they're in a disagreement with, they have every right to do that. But the medical board itself and this council don't have any ability to work outside of AB 1308. We have to follow its dictate. and create a list of items that require physician referral as dictated by AB 1308. The other piece that I would say here is that AB 1308 regulates midwives. It hasn't removed anything from a woman's right to decide what care she is going to accept. All it does is say that if she wants to have her twins at home, she must find a licensed provider other than a midwife, a licensed midwife, to serve her, or she has to go it alone. Do I like that? No. But that's what the law says, and we can't change that here. So what I would encourage you to do, and your group to do, is to organize women, because it's consumers that the legislature is going to listen to change these things that you have disagreement with. But this isn't the venue for changing it. We don't have the ability to change it. All we have the ability to do here and at the interested parties meeting is to craft the best regulation we possibly can to serve birthing women and families, to protect their safety, and as best we can to assure their autonomy of choice in the birthing environment. And so I really, really would encourage you to attend the interested parties meeting on the 15th and to stay engaged in that at the same time that you're working to organize consumers to change the law.
I understand that, and I can't come to the one on the 15th, but we are talking with some other people in our group to try and have representation at that meeting. Part of what I was trying to say in this was that it's been difficult enough working within the restrictions of AB 1308 and having a woman who hits 42 weeks and then all of a sudden we can't take care of her anymore.
I understand.
You know, I had a woman recently who set an alarm clock so that when she hit 37 weeks, she had a party so that she could have her baby at home. But I understand that's part of the law, but the regulations, the lists of regulations that I've seen and that those of us in our group have talked about seem to be adding even more and more burdensome restrictions.
That's a work in progress, and that's why consumers and midwives need to be at those interested parties meetings. That's where their voice is going to be heard regarding that regulatory process. If they don't show up and they don't speak, we don't know their mind.
One of the things
So
that's been
that's what's
very
really
difficult is that those of us in Southern California, we're a long way from Sacramento. It's very difficult to get up here.
I understand.
I know that in the past there were meetings that alternated between Northern and Southern California.
Yeah.
I would love to see that come back because it is so hard to
The
get
medical
up here.
board meets in 4 different places throughout the state during the year, but the Midwifery Advisory Council only meets here, and a lot of that I'm sure has to do with budgetary restrictions. You know, there's only so much money to go around. But those of us that come to these meetings and that sit on this council do come from quite a ways to be here. So I don't know what else to offer you. I'm sorry. Is there any comment from the council?
I would just like to state that I know that the meetings that I'm aware of that happened in Northern and Southern California were not anything having to do with the medical board or with the Midwifery Advisory Council. They were actually CAM. They were the California Association of Midwives meetings that we did for quite a while try to split between Northern and Southern so that more of the midwives could come. And there were budgetary issues, and a lot of times people didn't come even though they were in Southern California. So it's a difficult issue.
It's
And
very difficult.
It's a very difficult issue, and many of us have been aware for a long time that there is this kind of Northern-Southern California split. It's uncomfortable for all of us, and we don't like it either. We don't know how to make it better because there is this geographic split,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
Sacramento is here.
Yes.
All right, let's keep moving forward with our agenda.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Jean, for making the effort to come here and speak today. Faith Gibson?
Faith Gibson, California College Midwives. You will be happy to know that I'm speaking about something that you can do something about, and that is the next or any subsequent interested parties meetings. It is my understanding of our regulatory process that it is not owned by any particular special interest, neither midwives nor ACOG. And Yet at the last interested parties meeting, we had the lawyer from the medical board and somebody from ACOG who were kind of like these twin officiating people at the meeting, as if ACOG was a decider organization. And I want to say that it isn't. It's all of us together, that these regulations belong to the people of California, not to any special interest groups. And I would like either to not do that again. So my suggestion would be either that we would have a panel of one representative from each of the different organizations, midwifery and organized medicine, or that we would all sit out there in the audience and speak as we needed to. That's my request. Thank
If
you.
there were going to be that kind of representation, I would like to see California's Citizens for Midwifery as one of the panel members who is front and center.
Thanks, Karen. Malik?
The interested parties meeting will actually be held in our Lake Tahoe room, which is going to be a more roundtable discussion, and it won't be podiums and two people in the front. So it should be more efficient for a discussion.
Thank you. Is there any other comment from the public on this agenda item? Rosanna Davis. State your name.
Rosanna Davis, Cam. I just wanted to request that the interested parties meeting get recorded and publicized. The last one was apparently recorded, but it was never publicized.
Thank you. Anything else from the audience? Any other comments from the council on this agenda item? All right, seeing none, we're going to move forward. All right, I'm going to get the right page. All right, Ms. Lowe is going to give us an update on the BREEZE program.
Thank you. So board staff have been very busy with preparing for these interested parties meetings and the MAC meetings. So there's a few things that are still on our plate that we need to get done. Some of them would be that survey, which would be a follow-up survey that we did previously for the implementation of AB 1308 and how that was going. We didn't have a chance to get to that survey prior to today's meeting, but we are hopeful to get that done within the next week or two and get that out, and hopefully CAM can help assist get that to their members. So that is still on our plate to do. Also, we've been working on the language for our website for the transfer reporting form instructions and additional direction. Unfortunately, we have not had sufficient time to get that done either. So those are our top priorities for MAC at this point, along with the interested parties meeting, and I'm hopeful that you'll see some of these changes within the next couple weeks. Moving on to the actual BREEZE update, we really don't have any new information to report except BREEZE is working at the moment, and we're utilizing it to review incoming applications. The online side for consumers is available. We have made some changes to the search options, which have made a much easier way to navigate to BREEZE. If you haven't verified a midwife license, you can go onto the board's website and click verify a license, select licensed midwife, and it takes you directly to the search in BREEZE. So it's cut down some of the clicks necessary. Board staff continue to review the system, notify the Department of Consumer Affairs of any issues that we're having, and work with them to update the system so that it is more efficient for everyone involved. We're still working on the online renewal application for licensed midwives. There's not an anticipated date for that. It's on a long list of items that the medical board is working on. So when we do get to that point, obviously I'll be providing you with more information. That's all I have for the BREEZE update.
At, I think the last meeting, I had asked if BREEZE might be able to be searched by county so that lists of all the midwives in any given county can come up. Do you know whether that has been requested, and if so, what's the status?
We have mentioned it at our licensing user group meetings that we meet every few weeks on, and it's kind of up in the air right now, but it is starting to be looked into.
Okay, so will you update us when you know more?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Any other comments on the BREEZE update? Okay.
Okay. For the licensing statistics on page 19 of your packets, we provided the chart. And very briefly, the numbers pretty much remain consistent. and the licenses that are being issued appear to be about the average of 5 per quarter. So some months are up, some are down. There's really nothing too outstanding to report on. Are there any questions on the licensing stats? Okay. Then I will move on to the enforcement statistics, which are on page 20 of your packet. Of note for this report, you will see that the hospital reporting form numbers have been added in. For the first quarter of the fiscal year, we are showing that 53 reports were received. We're not completely satisfied with reporting the forms in this format or in that section of the enforcement reports, and most likely that will be changing before the next meeting. And taking it out of complaints received, because it's not necessarily a complaint against the licensed midwife. It's simply that the reporting form is received. So I want to mention that we put it in here so we can get the statistics to you this time for how many have been received, but you will most likely be seeing it in a better format. And that is all I have. Are there any questions on the enforcement statistics?
I'm not sure I understand completely. It says hospital reporting form 6. Does that mean only 6 hospital reporting forms have been received for the whole 13, 14? It says total.
Hospital reporting forms.
They didn't give us anything for
53,
13.
sorry. So 53, what that means is 53 hospital reporting forms have been, and they covered what time frame?
It's for the first quarter of the fiscal year, so that would
Okay.
be,
Thanks.
okay,
Just in
July
case
to
it was,
October,
well,
correct?
it's in the other.
July to the end of
So-
September.
Okay.
So will the board attempt to look at these and correlate them with the LMAR in terms of hospital transfers at some point to see whether we're getting all the hospital reporting forms that we ought to be getting for all the transfers that go in?
When we discuss the intention of this form, which has come up at interested parties meeting, one of the intents is that it does somehow validate the LMAR data. I foresee down the road, once we get this process in place and we get all parties involved aware of this, that we could then begin to analyze the data between the two, but
Okay.
we're not there.
That's what I was wondering down the road.
Yeah.
Okay. Great.
Okay. Kim just updated me that the online system for Breeze does now allow for the county to be searched by, so that has been updated.
Thank you.
Yay.
That is remarkable.
They may be watching the webcast and got that done for you.
Keep requesting, get 2 minutes or less.
All right.
And that concludes my program update.
Are there any other comments on agenda item 9, Ms. Lowe's update? All right, seeing none, we're going to move forward. Ms. Lowe is going to give us an update on the council membership.
Okay. Briefly, while staff was reviewing the term limits for the MAC, some things were brought to our attention, including the expiration of term limits for Ms. Yaroslavsky and Ms. Sparvon. Also, while we were reviewing, of note is that Dr. Burns, Ms. Ehrlich, and Ms. Webster's terms will expire June 30th of 2015. So at this time, board staff will begin the process of notifying interested parties of the vacancies that will be coming up and the terms that will be expiring. We'll be sending out an interest form. We'll be posting it on our website and sending it out by subscribers list. And we'll be doing that within the next week or two, and are asking for applications and supporting documentation to be submitted to the board. We don't have a set date, but by the end of January. That way, those applications can be reviewed and presented at the next MAC meeting in March. At that time, those positions that have expired or will be expiring, you can make your recommendation that we can then present to the full board at the May board meeting, so that those positions can be filled prior to the expiration of their actual term, and we can be on time and good to go now.
I have a real concern here,
Okay.
significant concern. I understand that the medical board lost track of this perhaps, that actually we have 2 members sitting here whom I love and am happy that they're here. I'm not trying to say I don't want them here, but they shouldn't be. Their terms already expired, and this whole process should have taken place 6 months ago and more. if we indeed move ahead with replacing those 2 members and the 3 of us whose terms expire in June, we're going to have 5 brand-new people on this council, and that is why we had staggered terms instated when we first seated the Midwifery Advisory Council, was so that we would have longevity here as well as new, fresh people as we went along. I think this is a real problem, and I want to see if we are indeed going to replace 2 people in March immediately, and then I think what we need to do is extend the terms of the others of us who are supposed to expire in June, so that we can continue with these staggered terms in the way that it was originally intended to be done. I think this is a real problem.
Ms. Kirkmeyer?
The way these were put together in the terms in and of themselves were actually something that I believe that this committee agreed to when it first started, the council first started, as to the time frame of them.
That is not true.
No, the
That is
board.
not true.
the
Dr.
board said it.
Fantozzi and the board.
So the board put them together. So it would
Yes.
take us to go back to the board at the January meeting and ask them to change the term limits for
Fine,
those
I
positions.
think we should do that.
So,
Because I think it will be, if we should end up with all 5 of these positions getting completely filled with new people, we have no longevity, we have no institutional memory. I don't think it's a good idea. I think it's harmful to the process.
So I think
that
what we
we're
also
trying
have to realize is that we've had changes in administration in the medical board, and I think we have to be, in all due fairness, we can express our concerns and everything to
Yes.
staff, but staff needs to figure out what's going on. This is not for us to, the input is fine, and,
I appreciate that the medical board is stressed. Believe me, I know
So, I
you
mean,
folks
I'm
have a
just
lot to
suggesting
do.
that the demands are not, it's just, staff has to hear what's going on, and it should be deferred to staff.
So my institutional memory is this. When the council was originally set up in 2007, every term was a bit staggered. So the 3 midwives had a 1-year, a 2-year, and a 3-year term.
That's
And
correct.
my term initially was 1 year, Karen's was 2, and Faith's was 3.
That's correct.
I think what hasn't happened and why we have a bunch of people expiring at the same time is Ruth Haskins retired in the middle of a term, and Dr. Burns took over the rest of that term, and so he shouldn't really have gotten 3 years initially. He should have gotten whatever Dr. Haskins' term was left, and then reapplied. And I believe
Faith resigned as well, I believe.
and
in the
Faith,
middle.
but I think she
She resigned toward almost at the very end of her term.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That is not a
So-
part of this.
yeah. I think we can figure it out.
Can I suggest
Yeah.
that
With
staff
some-
meet
Yeah,
with the
and-
chair and you
Yes.
guys work this out?
Absolutely. And we had talked about talking to Ms. Spervon anyway, because we want to go over this process anyway, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds like a deal. All right. Is there any other input for this agenda item? No, seeing none. Anything from the audience? No. All right. Okay. Future Midwifery Advisory Council dates. So tab 11 has possibilities.
I have a comment here, and it isn't about the specific dates, it's about the calendar. When I first saw pages 24 and 25 in the packet, I was thrilled that the medical board had taken all of these different holidays and put them out there to try to make sure we didn't step on any culture or religion's toes. And then I began to realize that your Jewish holidays are all wrong. All wrong. They are all wrong. Please understand that Jewish holidays change every year. They are never on the same date this year as they were last year, as they will be next year. And all of the dates that you have for Jewish holidays here are for 2014. They are not for 2015. I did look up the major ones that we need to not interfere with for meetings of the Midwifery Advisory Council are Passover, Rosh Hashanah, and Yom Kippur. And they do not conflict, even in 2015. So it is not significant for this particular set of dates that you have here, but please, in the future, consult a Jewish calendar or talk to one of us. Who knows? Google it. That's right. And each year it is different. So I
Kind of like Easter, huh?
understand what I'm saying. Yeah, it's like Easter.
Yeah, we got it.
No, it's not like Christmas.
It's like Easter. Easter is a different day every year.
Yeah.
Okay, we got it. Sorry about that. So,
Can I make a comment? I just wanted to say thank you. I had no idea when National Tartan Day was, and next year I will be really happy
Tartan
to find International Talk Like a Pirate Day observed in my household. So without those little inclusions, I would have had no idea. So thanks for making my day.
I love you, Josie. All right. So, do council members have druthers about the March dates? Any preferences there, the 19th or the 26th?
That's why I brought my calendar with me.
I prefer the 26th.
I think I do too. Anybody else for the 26th? Guess Dr. Byrne doesn't get to say because he's not here.
I prefer the 26th as well.
All right. So,
Because there are there's other stuff.
all right. Does that work for you, Barbara? I hope so. Okay. So, March 26th. How about August? Anybody got their vacation plans set yet? August 6th or 13th?
I have no preference.
All right. Anybody have a problem with the 13th? We're hoping it works for you. Everybody okay with the 13th on the council? Okay. And December next year, I actually prefer earlier in December rather than later, so I prefer the 3rd.
The major issue with that, well, there's the Association of Pre and Perinatal Psychology and Health is having its conference beginning on the 3rd.
Okay.
But it does extend for 4 days, so I'm not sure that it's a big issue.
It isn't an issue for me. Anybody else on the council have a problem with it? No. Okay.
I would suggest that we move on these dates, and that
Yeah.
if there is a problem, that
We can change them in the
we
future.
should let
yeah.
the staff know.
Okay. So,
I move to accept March 26th, August 13th, and December 3rd.
second. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any-
Okay. Great. All right. Now we need agenda items for the next Midwifery Advisory Council meeting. So we need to put the LMAR on there, updates to that, continuing updates on AB 1308 and that process, midwifery assistance, and there's a process for transfer from home to hospital that has been developed in this country, and I would really like to invite Diane Holzer to the March meeting to give us a short PowerPoint presentation on that, if nobody has any objections to that. She's a part of the committee that helped design it. Everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? Staff know anything I'm forgetting here? Yeah. Constance? Yeah.
Constance Rock, California Association of Midwives. I'd like to add a report from CAM on our meetings with the Department of Healthcare Services about Medi-Cal applications, and a report about our meetings with Department of Public Health about comprehensive perinatal services, and also a legislative update on an author for a bill about comprehensive perinatal services.
Can we do that? It's basically a Medi-Cal update, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, and where midwives are with getting things like that changed. We have in the past discussed this on the MAC in terms of just, historically, staff several years ago prepared a report for us as to what it would take to get licensed midwives added to the list of providers for CPSP services, and I, for one, would really like to have the update if nobody has objections to that. Okay.
Medi-Cal, basically, and
It's
Cam's
on-
input.
Yeah, it's on moving forward with getting us Medi-Cal. As Medi-Cal providers.
As information.
Yeah, right. All right, so legal says we can do that as provided as information only. It's not going to be something that the MAC can actually take action on, but it's kind of like the report from Diane Holzer on the hospital transfer.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. All right. Anybody else? All right. Do I need a motion to put these on the agenda?
So move.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. So, and of course, all the other normal updates that go there will also be on the agenda. All right. Any further public comments? Council comments? All right. This meeting's adjourned. Thank you all very much.
I could have driven and gone in and out of the same airport.